Welcome to the Brinner Smokehouse kitchen, and welcome to Super Bowl Sunday. So we're going to see if we can do this in about a half an hour so you guys can get to the game. At least on the Pacific Coast here, it starts in about 30 minutes. So let's get at it. Today we're making a bacon cheeseburger, or the ultimate cheeseburger mac. This is an upgrade obviously from Hamburger Helper, but from scratch. So it's got a lot more flavor than the Hamburger Helper. Be that as may, my kids and I grew up with Hamburger Helper, so nothing against the bag in the box, but if you can take it up a notch, why not? So we got to start off with the ingredients. So I've got some 80-20 ground beef. Just so you know, ground beef is really expensive. All beef is expensive now. The average price for a pound of fresh ground beef in the store is even $5 to $6. If you can get it under $5, you're getting it on sale. So what I do is I stake out my local chef store and I buy 5 or 10 pound chubs. And then what I do is divide it into 1 pound increments, bag it up and freeze it and pull it out as I need it. When you go there, they're going to have products sometimes that's short dated, and what that means is it has a limited shelf life left on it. Most of the time when I go in there, if there is such a thing, it's like 3 days left, which is fine for me because I go home, portion it, and then freeze it. And when I thaw it out, I don't sit on it for days. It gets used that day. So there's no issue with that. But in this example, I was able to get grass-fed 80-20 for $2.99 a pound for 2 5-pound chubs. So score, as long as you don't leave it. Now the short dated stuff, I don't buy pre-cooked product. It has to be raw. It has to have a couple of days, 2-3 days left on it. And then it's something I freeze after I've portioned out, and then I put it away, pull it out for that day, or maybe the day before if it's like a chicken or something, if it needs a little more time to thaw, and then cook it. So it's a great way to save money, especially as tough as things are today. I'm going to fire this up and start heating this up. I've already cooked some bacon in here. This pan has already got a little bit of bacon grease that I left in there. But let's go over the ingredients real quick. So obviously, pound of ground beef. We're going to put this in there once it warms up. I've got some cooked bacon that I talked about that's going to be a topping. Other things in the pasta itself, I have about 8 ounces of a leftover package of cavatappi, a little corkscrew pasta, which we enjoy. I've got 2 cups. It calls for beef stock. This is pork stock. I'm going to use this because I had some leftover scrap from some barbecued ribs, and I roasted those with some aromatics and made a stock. So I'm going to use that so it's more flavorful than the beef stock in the box, or even better than bouillon, which is usually, to me, a little too salty. I've got a little bit of heavy cream. For cheese in there, I've got some American cheese. I just happen to have white, so that's what I'm using. This will help emulsify the sauce. The other cheese in it is, the recipe calls for sharp cheddar. I'm using what I have, which is some sharp smoked cheddar. And because it calls for 1.5 cups, I don't think I have that much. I've got a little chunk of smoked pepper jack that I'm going to use to augment it. It's all great. It all works together. Other seasonings in the beef is some smoked paprika to give you that grill flavor, along with some Worcestershire, some garlic powder, some onion powder. And I think that's everything in the pasta. Besides the topping, we'll have some shredded Monterey Jack. And again, it's smoked because that's what I've got. And then the bacon. And then for the toppings beyond that, we're going to be putting some fresh lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, just like you would expect on a cheeseburger. So this is getting warm, so I'm going to put this in here. And actually, I'm going to see if I can do this without touching the meat. There we go. I'm going to switch over so you can see. Yeah. So you're going to see me chop this up. Now I want this, cheeseburger is not like usual ground beef, right? It's not going to be finely diced like I would do in a regular cheeseburger macaroni Hamburger Helper style. I'm going to leave this in chunks because I want almost like cheeseburger bites. We're going to try to get some caramelization on here. I've not tried to do this on this butane, so we're going to see. See if I can get the browning I want. I'm going to turn that up. We'll turn it down later. And while that's cooking, we're going to make our burger sauce. All right, this looks good enough for now. I'm going to let that start to brown. Now I did have some bacon fat in there. I took most of it out because it's going to render off some bacon fat. And when it gets to the point of being brown, I'm going to look at it and see if it's too oily, in which case I can blot out some of the fat before we continue. But in the meantime, let's do the burger sauce. So I've got a 1/4 cup of a good quality mayonnaise. We're going to add a tablespoon of ketchup. And I'm starting to wear ketchup, so let me get myself a towel. A teaspoon of yellow mustard. We're going to serve this mustard on the side too. So if you like mustard, you could change this, whatever you want. And then the secret sauce on this is pickle brine. This acid is going to, I need about 2 tablespoons, and of course I have a teaspoon, so we're going to kind of hit this a few times. This is actually better if you make it earlier and then put it in the refrigerator. It'll thicken up more, so it's not quite so runny. The last touch is a little bit of smoked paprika. And then we're just going to stir this up. Trying to get some brown on this beef, so I'm not touching it right now. I'm hoping I get a little caramelization. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. The sauce is fairly pink. Let's go ahead and put it in a squeeze bottle so it's easy to use on the table. Yes, that's a ginormous funnel, I know, but it's got a nice wide opening. My other one is smaller, but takes twice as long to empty. Okay. Just tap that down, get all that goodness out of there. And there we've got our burger sauce. Okay, let's check this. We're getting some. I like it a little darker. Now you know what you could do, if you really want a true grill flavor, is you could take hamburger patties and take them out to the grill and char them and then let them cool slightly and chop them up and use that from the point where the brown beef would be brown. There, we're getting a little brown, that's good. And we are either, some of this is moisture, some of this is fat. We're going to let it sit for a little bit longer. I want to turn that piece over. Yep, that's a nice browning going. And then we're going to start adding our other flavors. But let's work a little bit on our toppings while we're at it. So shredded iceberg, just like you would have on a hamburger, right? I mean, romaine's good as well, but it's a little bit harder to get that nice crispiness you get from iceberg. I mean, I'm not a huge lettuce on burger guy. I grew up with McDonald's. And McDonald's kids meals, or even just the 2 cheeseburger meal, that was one of my favorites as a kid, right? Ketchup, mustard, pickle, onion. Even today, if I go out and have a ginormous half-pound hamburger, if I had my choice, it'd be American cheese, ketchup, mustard, pickles, and onions. I'd be curious if you guys maybe think about what you would like. You could leave it in the chat, or after this goes posting tomorrow, maybe put it in the comments. Let me know what's your favorite toppings for hamburgers. All right, clean that off. There's that. Let's check on this again. I hope everybody's going to enjoy the game. Hey, I'm a West Coaster up here in the Northwest, so I guess you probably know who I'm rooting for. Go Seahawks. Anyway, we've got This is actually gonna be dinner for us tomorrow because we've got, obviously, we got beer cheese and pretzel bites and soft pretzels technically. All right, this is actually really close. What I'm gonna do is push this to the side because I wanna blot out some of this fat. Some of this was bacon fat, but most of it is not. And although it would add flavor, it would definitely add a greasy texture in a creamy sauce. Now the cheeses we're using, American cheese, is that classic American cheese you expect on a hamburger. You know, the barbecue you would have out on the barbecue when you were a kid. All right, this is ready. We're gonna add first you know what, I'm gonna add the dry product first. I got my smoked paprika, if it comes out, my granulated garlic, my granulated onion, and the last one, which is gonna help sizzle, is Worcestershire. And we're just gonna toss this to season this meat. It's kind of like steak seasoning. Oh, the smell right now is amazing from that Worcestershire. And you can see it's already taking on some nice brown bits. So we're gonna add our stock, 2 cups. That'll stop it from sizzling and potentially burning. Our 1/2 cup of heavy cream. What else am I missing? I'm not sure I'm missing anything right now. We got to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to put our pasta in. You can see some of the color that it's developing because of the smoked paprika. Now what I'm doing is scraping the bottom to make sure those beef bits that are on there get into the sauce, because those are all flavor. And we're going to turn that all the way up and bring that up to a simmer. I'm just double checking I'm not forgetting anything. Yep. Okay. It says I can add it now, so I'm going to. I'm going to add my pasta. We do need to bring it up to a boil before we cover this. And then we're going to simmer this for about 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to be pushing that envelope for kickoff, I know. Sorry. It's going to be pretty close. In hindsight, I probably should have saved this for next week and done something else this week, but we're here, so let's get at it. Okay. Starting to simmer around the edges. I'm going to do tomatoes next. So I've got a Roma tomato, but I found these grape tomatoes in the drawer left over. So I'm just going to, I need something like a serrated blade for those. This will work. I'm just going to cut this into like sections. Okay, we're starting to get a simmer. More on one side than the other, which is slightly disappointing, but it's the first time I've tried to use a 12-inch cast iron. Let's try moving this a little bit. Let's rotate this, shall we? Okay, there we go. I just don't want to knock off the handle. Okay, we've got a simmer going. Let's turn this down to medium-low. We'll put a lid on it. We're going to set an 8-minute timer, if I can remember how to do this. There we go. Meanwhile, we are going to make our toppings as well as shred our cheese. I probably should be shredding my cheese right now. We can do it after we get through the tomatoes. Yeah, I needed to go through these grape tomatoes. They're getting up there. They needed to be used up. Either that or I could smoke them, sun dry them, that kind of thing, but just haven't had time. I love sun-dried tomatoes. Smoked ones are even better, but you know how it is. Sometimes you don't have time, right? Okay. You know what? Since I'm the main user of tomato, I think I'm going to leave that alone for now. But let's wipe up our mess here. Just wipe that off. Yeah, I think I need to put a few seeds there. Okay, let's do the cheese. Woo! Got me. I think I won't be reaching over there again. It's way, gotta turn this way down. That thing's at a rolling boil. Let's turn that way down. I don't want it to burn on the bottom. Okay, this actually holds a cup. So let's go ahead and shred our cheddar. Actually, we can cut up the, I need to wipe this blade off. Lettuce. You can cut up this American first, since all it's got to do is be diced. And I buy Kraft Deluxe slices in the larger packet. The reason I like those, it's you may have seen it in my mac and cheese video, is it's not wrapped. So you don't have to deal with unwrap a slice, unwrap a slice, unwrap a slice. And meanwhile, you're throwing all those in the garbage. So, all right, let's do the cheddar. And I'll be honest with you, this is one of my least favorite things to do. Not that I use pre-shredded, I do sometimes, you know, sometimes you don't have time. But this actually benefits from having fresh cheese as opposed to the pre-shredded, because they use anti-cake. And that anti-cake can make your sauce even thicker to the point where it tastes almost pasty. So I prefer on fresh pastas to shred my own. But to be honest with you, if I had the time and I wasn't doing it to try and be done and minimize my mess, I mean, I'd be pulling out my food processor and using the grating attachment and getting it done in 30 seconds. The only problem to that, yeah, that's about a cup. The only problem to that is, what is the problem with that? It makes a mess. More dishes, more resources used. So if I can get this down to almost nothing, then if it's little bits, I can just add it to the pasta and it will melt those as well. That heat got me good. Walked into my own steam. Okay. All right, we're gonna need this again when we grate the jack cheese. The jack cheese is in the fridge because it's really hard to shred jack cheese on a hand shredder when it's closer to room temperature. So I'm keeping it refrigerated for now. While this cooks, we have about 4 minutes left. I'm gonna see if I can move that. Maybe I can prep some pickles. Now you can do whatever you like. Some people, I'm just always been a fan of pickles. I make my own pickles, as you guys have probably seen. I'm just surprised that more people don't have pickles in restaurants with their burgers. A lot of places just do it as a garnish, which, you know, you get a pickle wedge. I mean, what do you do with that? Do you dice it up on your plate? I mean, it's just, maybe a lot of people don't want pickles, which is sad, but I know there's people out there that don't really care for pickles. I would say there's probably more people who do, but there's those that don't want it. Okay. I think that's good. Get a bowl for that. And then the other one we have to cut up is our red onion. Red onion is a nice step up. You can use whatever onion you have. We generally use red onion mainly for visual garnish. I don't have a need to eat red onion or have it in the house necessarily unless I'm trying to show off a bit. We just use, honestly, we just use sweet onions. Whatever's available, Vidalias, Walla Walla Sweets, whatever's out there. It keeps us from having to cry too much from onions. We're big babies about that kind of thing. So the onion, Brendan and I will have some of that, but my son won't eat onion. Well, he does like onion rings, or he actually asked me to make some French onion soup. He wants to try it. And so, knowing me, one of the upcoming videos at some point will be smoked French onion soup, because I can't just do French onion soup. I have a great recipe for French onion soup, but there's so many videos out there on YouTube for French onion soup. Why would I do the same thing as everybody else? I'm just not interested in following suit with other people. Kind of like my egg on a toast from last Friday. You know, I can follow the trends and try to get clicks, but that's not my cup of tea. I want to be able to do something different. So I guess we can get rid of that. All right, burger sauce. We're going to put a little pepper in there possibly. I do want to taste the stock for salt. The thing you want to be careful of with this dish is it says salt and pepper to taste. Pepper's fine. It can take the pepper. But there's enough sodium in the cheeses and the stock and the bacon fat and the sauce and everything that just be very careful with your sodium. I try to keep my sodium in check. Thank you, doctor. And so I usually do it at the end if I'm going to do it at all. How much time we got? 15 seconds. Okay, ready. 3, 2, 1. Oh, my watch did. My watch went off. Okay, let's take this off. This time I'm not going to steam myself. You can see a lot of the water has been absorbed from the pasta. It's still undercooked a bit. We'll cook it a little more by adding our cheese. So we're going to start by adding our, what did I do with my, I don't know what I did with my scraper. No, let's just do it this way. We're going to add our American cheese first. So this is going to act like an emulsifier. It's going to help. I don't know if you've ever, there it is. I don't know if you've ever made cheese sauce with cheddar and some other cheese. It actually will cause it to break, and you end up with a greasy, clumpy sauce. Well, there's a few things you can do to prevent that. One is you can incorporate American cheese because it has a natural emulsifier. You can do cream cheese. That's another emulsifier. And you can also do calcium citrate, which is basically what that prevents. It prevents that from, I'm going to turn that up a smidge. We're getting there. We're getting there. We want this cheese to melt before we bring in, I had to turn the heat up a bit to get it back to bubbling. We're going to let that simmer for a second. So we've got our sauce ready. We've got our toppings ready. And we've got, only thing we don't have shredded right now is the Monterey Jack, which we will do as soon as, well actually I need to bring it out because it won't be long before this is done. Now we set this for 8. My guess is I could have easily gone to 10. Would I add some more cream? Would I add some more water? I might. Let me get my smoked jack out. I need about a cup. So I think about a little less than half of this, most likely. I'm gonna call that good. It's just for topping, because it makes a really nice topping. Okay. Our American cheese has melted. All right. We're gonna add our cheddar and our little bit of pepper jack. Stir that in, and then we're gonna cover it. We're gonna cover it and give it a chance to get all melty, and we're almost done. Okay, we're gonna stir this up and just get that cheese. Woo, it's getting stringy. Okay, I'm gonna cover that up. We're gonna turn that back down to low, very low. I'm not really trying to do anything but melt the cheese. And while we're doing that, you know what? I need that little cup. Let's grate that jack. Yeah, see, it's very, very soft, even if it's cold. That's just why it's such a good melting cheese. The other thing is it makes a good topping cheese because it doesn't break down like cheddar cheese does, where it can get greasy, and when it starts to cool down and seize up. I think I'm gonna have a little bit of dog treat here for Cooper pretty quick, because I've got a knob of cheese. That's close enough. Let's just get the rest of that. Okay. All right. I'm gonna add that and set that aside for the pupster. Let's get that there. I think I don't need that anymore. And so I'm going to pull this off. I have a little bit of cheese here and there, but we're going to dish some up here pretty darn quick. Okay. Look at that nice cheese. Oh, yeah. You can see all the strings of cheddar. This actually would be pretty good to let sit for about 10 minutes. One, it's hot, but also it will help the sauce set up a little more. That's okay, we're gonna put toppings on it now. Just leave it simmering. So let's add our jack cheese. And you put the lid back on until the cheese is melted, and then it's pretty much ready. You could also put the bacon on if you want to heat it up as well, but that steam will make it a little soft, less crispy. It's up to you. We're going to go ahead and do it. I actually cooked a little bit more than I need, or did I? We'll see. Whatever's left will be in a hash for breakfast tomorrow, so it's not like it's going to go to waste. And the recipe calls for applewood thick slice, but use what you have. I had an open package of low sodium bacon, so that's what I used. So let's give this just about a minute or so for that cheese to melt and get nice and creamy, and then we'll be ready to serve it up. Oh, something in the eye. There we go. All right, this is going to bring the dog, but he's been really good, being very quiet over there by the living room, so I'm going to go, oops. That'll make him happy. He's a very mature dog. He's about 14 years old, and he's just the sweetest little dog. It was kind of funny when we moved out, before we moved out to the coast, the last place we lived, we had the buyer put in an offer for the house and asked if we would include the dog. Of course, we didn't do that. But that just goes to, oh, I forgot to pepper. That just goes to show what a great dog he is. The lady who bought it had 2 kids, and they were just like, "Oh, this dog is so sweet. I want this dog." So we've been very blessed. And our newer little Doxy, Chimmy, has been just a blessing as well. She's a true lap dog. First dog we've ever had that wanted to sit on our lap, besides our black lab back in the day. It was way too heavy to sit on your lap. But, okay. Doghouse, as you can tell. That looks pretty good. Put this down. Let's take a look. What do you think? Looks pretty good, right? I'm going to turn it off. Now, the reason we have the toppings separate is if you ever want to reheat this, if I was to put the lettuce and everything on right now, then the leftovers would have soggy lettuce on it. So it's set up like a burger bar, so you can scoop what you want and then top with what you want. And then if you have leftovers, you can just microwave it up and then turn around and put the toppings on again. So I did that on purpose because I didn't want soggy leftovers. Oh, he's over there licking. He was like, "Oh, that was really good." Okay, let's grab some. Let's grab some. Again, I think this could be a little bit thicker, but I think it just needs, if I was to let it set, and I would be doing that if I wasn't trying to get to the game. Let's get some more of that sauce. Okay. And then I'm going to turn around and put some toppings on here real quick. Some lettuce, some tomato, some pickle, of course, a little bit of onion, and our burger sauce. And just because I've been a mustard fan my entire life, a little extra mustard. Not too much, just a little, like that. Okay, I'm gonna try and get this up on the camera. What do you think? Here we go. Hopefully it's focused. It looks pretty good. All right, this is super hot. I'm probably gonna regret this, but I'm gonna go for it. Get a little pickle, get a little bacon. Cooper's trying to sneak in to see if he can find out what's being dropped on the floor. That's really good. The pasta's still al dente. If you like al dente, this is ideal. If you like it a little softer than al dente, I'd probably put in about maybe another 1/4 cup of stock or a 1/4 cup of cream, whichever you prefer. And then I would simmer it for at least 10 minutes, maybe even 11. If you're using elbow macaroni, it might be a little bit sooner. But this is delicious. It does taste like a cheeseburger. I'm really enjoying this. But I'll enjoy it more tomorrow since the game started 4 minutes ago. I think I have a little cheese on my face. Well, thank you for joining me. Leave me a comment and let me know if you're going to try this. What your favorite part was. I'd be curious to know. I do like upgraded Hamburger Helper. It makes me feel a little bit more adult. Not to say I don't regularly eat Hamburger Helper. My son does, but I don't. But that's what we grew up when they were kids. So thanks again. Come visit us soon and see what's next on the Brinner Smokehouse. All right? Later, Gator.